Hey there, Ed again. I've got an excerpt out of Manual D that I did in the class today, and I really like the way it came out. I just redid it, I don't know, yesterday, the day before. And it gets into some specifics that people tend to ignore, so let's do it. Uh, Here I go again with the highlighter thing, trying to get that to work. That's a highlighter. I don't want that. I want this guy. Yeah, it's a little bit better. I don't even really like the way that one looks. Let's try this one. Laser pointer. There we go. We got something. We're cooking with gas. Real basic house. This is Henry, lives up the street from me. We're just going to use one of the rooms, and the room that we're going to use in our example house right here is a family room. It's got one supply outlet in it. That room one needs 2,600 BTUs in heating, 3,300 in cooling. This is a homemade form that I've been using for years, and maybe we shouldn't be using homemade stuff. Maybe we should actually be following some sort of legitimate design process. So I added some content to the next couple slides in lieu of my homemade stuff. Real nominal numbers in this example. We got 30,000 BTUs of gain. We're going to distribute that with 1,000 CFM. And this is, again, using nominal numbers, but I'm going to break it down as to how Manual D recommends to do it with specific numbers. This is a example of the ductwork sizing worksheet for a reducing plenum system in Manual D. And why I'm showing it here is it shows us up here that we have to first solve for our heating factor and our cooling factor. And they are a product of taking your blower CFM and dividing it by your sensible heat gain. Let me repeat that. Sensible heat gain. Has nothing to do with total BTUs. It's another example of how 400 CFM per ton is a farce. And I'm going to use the actual numbers from the previous slide to cover what is required to fill out this worksheet that is part of the process of doing a proper duct calculation. Just to go over again real quick, we got 26 and change for heat, 3,300 in cooling, and I'm only going to address cooling because they're sensible BTUs for heat. I think everybody's on board with that, maybe not so much when it comes to cooling. So we're going to take this and figure out how we determine what our design CFM is. We've transferred the numbers into here, our cooling CFM. How did we determine it? Well, we solve for this by calculating the information, right? That 110 comes from our cooling factor. And again, our cooling factor is our blower CFM divided by our manual J sensible heat gain. And that would be 1,000 divided by 30,000 to give me 0.033. If we look at our cooling CFM runouts, they're equal to our cooling factor times our sensible cooling BTUs, which our cooling factor was 0.0333. And if the threes fill up your calculator, and if you multiply that by 3,300, 3,300, it gives us 110 CFM. And it says it right here, number 2. It explains what is involved with calculating our heating factor. Then our cooling factor is right there. I can't emphasize enough, when it comes to doing a proper duct design hinges on doing a proper load calculation and equipment selection. And this is a little excerpt into how this works out. If you're using a software program, such as this one here, I blew that up so you can see it better. This number right here is calculated through a process like you just saw previously. Or if you're using a program like this and it gives you what your system design CFM is, this is all done through that process that you saw previously. It's math. This stuff's always going to come back to math. And I don't know if I like math or not, but I like sharing the math on how to do this stuff properly. Again, if you have questions about this stuff, don't hesitate to reach out about it.